we were talking about that Vivek interview, which is very interesting, where this woman on CNN, that same woman that did the town hall thing with Trump, what's her name? Caitlin?
Yeah, I don't remember.
Collins?
I know who you're talking about.
She was trying to get him to discuss certain things in a way that would look preposterous. And she was talking about 9/11. And like you said, that the government lied to us about 9/11. Like, would you think the government was involved in 9/11? He's like, no. What I said was that the government lied to us about 9/11 because the Saudis were involved and they knew they were involved. And she kind of glossed over that and was saying something in the lines of, don't you think that you saying that the government lied to us about 9/11 supports baseless conspiracy theories, like supports the idea that the government orchestrated, like that's when you want to put on the full tinfoil hat with the fucking chin strap, you say the government organized and designed 9/11. There was bombs in the building. They knew it was all happening. They detonated Tower 7. You got to go full hat. And so she's trying to bring him into full conspiracy tinfoil hat. And he is going, no, that's not what I said. And he said something that's factual. And she just sort of pretended it didn't get said and kept. I mean, that's a real fucking issue. They lied about whether or not Saudi Arabia was involved.
It's one of the biggest scandals in the history of the United States of America. It was like the biggest terrorist attack on our soil, and the government lied about what had happened and who was involved with it. And by the way, continued propping up that regime to this day. Continued funding and doing business with the same government that had high-level people involved in the attack. And they knew it and suppressed that from the American people, because it would have been, if you put yourself back in that time, it would have been such an outrage if Americans had known. And in fact, one of the first things George W. Bush did immediately after 9/11, even when all the flights were grounded, was get high-level Saudis out of the country. Fly them out of the country. And this is all factual. This happened. It's not disputed.
Including members of bin Laden's family.
Yeah. Yeah.
The whole thing is so wild. And it doesn't get discussed. They keep going back to the company narrative. What's the ideological left narrative? The left narrative is anybody who questions 9/11 is a nutter. And you're a nutter, and you're trying to run for president. And he does a very good job of, she repeats the question, he repeats the answer. She repeats the question, he repeats the answer. And she's trying to catch him in this. And it's like, see if you can find that.
I'm looking it up, and what I'm seeing online is that the story has turned a little bit, that The Atlantic has posted audio from the interview.
He was asking for that audio.
Yeah, it says they released it. And it says The Atlantic did not put any words in his mouth. And I'm trying to find the audio so we could play it, but it's behind a paywall.
So he was saying that they put words in his mouth?
Yeah, but then what I'm also seeing then in the Daily Beast article is that despite them releasing the audio, it says Ramaswamy's campaign somehow declared victory. So they're saying I guess they're saying he said it, but his team is also saying it's still been taken out of context.
But what are they claiming that he said?
I'm trying to find the transcript, and I haven't gotten that far. It's behind a paywall again. So,
but let's listen to his interview on CNN. Because the things that it's interesting, we'll figure this out.
It's just,
why is it not giving you any volume?
Well, it's not the interview yet.
It's not? What's
it's
that?
It's just her talking.
Oh, I see.
There.
And and this is just lifting the curtain on how media works again. I asked that reporter to send the recording because it was on the record. He refused to do it. But we had a free-flowing conversation.
After our interview, The Atlantic released the audio, more than 4 minutes of it, actually. And here is the part with that quote that was in question.
What is the truth about January 6th?
I don't know, but we can handle it. Whatever it is, we can handle it.
But what
government agents, how many government agents were in the field? Right?
You mean like entrapment?
Yeah. Absolutely. Why can the government not be transparent about something that we're using terrorists, or the kind of tactics used by terrorists, if we find that there are hundreds of our own in the ranks of the day that they were, I mean,
Well,
look,
there's a difference between entrapment and a difference between a law enforcement agent
I
identifying them.
think it is legitimate to say how many federal agents were on the planes that hit the Twin Towers. Like, I think we want it. Maybe the answer is zero. Probably is zero, for all I know, right? I have no reason to think it was anything other than zero. But if we're doing a comprehensive assessment of what happened on 9/11, we have a 9/11 commission. Absolutely, that should be an answer the public knows the answer to.
No.
Okay.
Vivek did nothing wrong.
There's nothing.
There's literally nothing wrong with what he said there.
But that's like, we're doing this in comparison to January 6th. So we do want to know how many federal agents were involved in January 6th. And imagine if there was actually federal agents that were involved on the planes in 9/11. He didn't say there were.
No, he specifically said zero. I'm sure
Yeah.
it was zero.
I'm sure
but
it was
we'd
zero.
want to know.
Right.
But we'd want to know. And he's saying if you're claiming this was an act of terrorism, just like that was an act of terrorism, then okay, let's have a commission. Let's have a report. Let's know how many federal agents there were. And so far, I mean, by the way, it's crazy they try to spin this.
Does she keep going? Can I hear what her take on that is?
Yeah, there's still another minute on this video.
Please play the rest of it.
Okay.
I want to hear what she has to say about this.
Herself. He was, in fact, quoted accurately. In an email to CNN after that audio was published, his spokesperson said, "The audio clearly demonstrates that Vivek was taken badly out of context, and even this small snippet proves that. We continue to encourage The Atlantic to release more of the recording rather than their carefully selected snippet so that the full context and reality is exposed." I should note that spokesperson did not explain how he was supposedly taken out of context. The reality is that Vivek Ramaswamy is running to be president of the United States. He will be on that debate stage tomorrow night, and he says this is a central message to his campaign.
This campaign is founded on the truth. The truth. We will not back down from the truth. We stand for the truth.
I am a patriot who speaks the truth.
Well, the truth is, he did say it. The quote was accurate, and it is on tape. And yes, this is how the media works. You get quoted for things you say accurately.
Yeah, but that is still out of context. It's clearly out of context. Otherwise, they would have released the entire recording.
I know, and it's this weird thing where they brag about how, like, but you know what? The Atlantic did release 4 minutes of audio. You're like, well, why not just release the whole thing?
Right, but
Like,
this was
what?
after he had said they didn't release it because they hadn't.
Right.
So
right.
he's asking for the copy of it. They would not give it to him. And then they released this small snippet that is, again, taken out of context.
And it's not as if anywhere in there he says, I believe there were